Normandy, France, June 1944. We thought we'd seen the worst of it at Omaha Beach. Blood in the water, bodies floating like driftwood, the sand stained crimson. Those of us who made it past the first wave, what was left of Baker Company, 116th Infantry Regiment, we thought we'd earned our ticket to something safer. Maybe guard duty. Maybe logistics. We were wrong. It was Sergeant Marcus Holloway who brought us the news. Big guy from Tennessee, voice like gravel, the kind of man who could make you feel safe even when artillery was tearing the world apart around you. But when he walked into that bombed-out farmhouse outside Corinton, his face told us everything before his mouth did. Listen up. His voice cut through the exhausted silence. We were 18 men sprawled across broken furniture and dirt floors. 18 survivors out of what used to be 42. Private Danny Chen was cleaning his M1 Garand by candlelight. Corporal James Jimmy Patterson sat in the corner, staring at a photograph of his wife Sarah. Tommy Rodriguez from El Paso was trying to sleep, his legs still bandaged from shrapnel. Eddie Walsh, our radio man from Boston, looked up with those tired Irish eyes. Command's got a mission for us, Holloway continued. His jaw clenched. Special assignment. Special how? That was Leo Kowalski, our squad skeptic. Polish kid from Chicago, who never trusted officers. Holloway pulled out a crumpled map, spreading it across a wooden crate. There's a German ammunition depot here, 15 miles behind enemy lines, near a town called St. Vith. Intelligence says it's supplying 3 panzer divisions preparing for a counteroffensive. The room went silent. Behind enemy lines. 15 miles. That's S territory, Jimmy whispered, his southern drawl heavy with dread. That's suicide. Command calls it a high-value target, Holloway said, and I could hear the bitterness in his voice. They need it destroyed before the Germans can reinforce their positions. They've chosen us because... He paused, and I saw something break in his eyes. Because we're expendable. Baker Company's already listed as decimated on paper. If we don't come back, it doesn't change their casualty reports. Jesus Christ, Eddie muttered, making the sign of the cross. Frank Morrison, our medic from Oregon, the quietest one among us, finally spoke up. How many men are stationed there? Estimated 200. Maybe more. 200 against 18. This is insane. Leo shot to his feet. They're throwing us away. We're not soldiers to them. We're fucking chess pieces. Sit down, Kowalski, Holloway ordered, but there was no real authority in it. Because we all knew Leo was right. I remember looking around at their faces in that moment. Danny Chen, barely 20 years old, who'd lied about his age to enlist after Pearl Harbor. Tommy Rodriguez, who used to sing Mexican ballads before every battle to calm his nerves. Jimmy Patterson, who'd promised his wife he'd come home. Eddie Walsh, who carried letters from his little sister in every pocket. Frank Morrison, who'd saved more lives than he could count. Leo Kowalski, angry and afraid and too smart for his own good. And Holloway, Marcus Holloway, who'd kept us alive through hell itself. We move out at 0400, Holloway said quietly. Get your gear ready. Double ammunition, light packs. We're going in fast and quiet, and if we refuse, Leo's voice was barely a whisper. Holloway met his eyes. Then they court-martial us. Execute us for cowardice. Either way, we're dead men. He folded the map. But if we pull this off, if we destroy that depot, we might save thousands of American lives. Maybe that's worth something. The night before we left, none of us slept. Jimmy wrote a letter to Sarah, sealing it with shaking hands. Danny sat with his rifle across his lap, eyes distant. Tommy prayed in Spanish, rosary beads clicking softly. Eddie checked the radio equipment over and over, like the repetition could save us. I found Holloway outside, smoking a cigarette under the stars. You think we can do this, Sarge? I asked. He took a long drag, exhaled slowly. Honestly, no. He looked at me, and I saw a man carrying the weight of 18 lives. But I think we're going to try. Because that's what soldiers do. Even when the mission is suicide. Even when command doesn't give a damn about us. He flicked ash into the darkness. Maybe especially then. Why us? The question that had been burning in all our minds. Because Baker Company doesn't exist anymore on their roster. We're ghosts. If we succeed, they get a victory. If we die. He shrugged. No one to answer to. No families demanding explanations for why their sons were sent on a suicide run. The truth hit like a bullet. We weren't soldiers. We were disposable assets. Then maybe, I said slowly, we don't play by their rules. Holloway looked at me sharply. What are you saying? I'm saying if they think we're dead already, maybe we got nothing to lose. I met his eyes. Maybe we do this mission our way. Maybe we fight back, not just against the Germans, but against the bastards who sent us to die. A slow smile spread across Holloway's face. The first real smile I'd seen since Omaha Beach. Gather the others, he said. We need to talk. Behind enemy lines, June 12, 1944, 0530 hours. The German patrol never saw us coming. We'd been moving through the French countryside for 6 hours, staying off roads, avoiding farmhouses, slipping through hedgerows like shadows. The pre-dawn mist clung to the ground, thick as wool, muffling our footsteps. Holloway had us spread in a loose formation, Danny and Leo on point, Eddie with the radio in the middle, Frank and I covering the rear. When the 5 Wehrmacht soldiers rounded the bend in the forest path, Danny dropped to one knee and raised his fist. We froze. They were young, maybe younger than Danny, talking in German, laughing about something. Probably heading back from a night patrol, thinking about breakfast and sleep. They had no idea 18 ghosts were watching them from the tree line. Holloway's hand signals were clear. Take them. Silent. What happened next took less than 30 seconds. Jimmy and Tommy moved like hunters, knives drawn. The Germans didn't even have time to unsling their rifles. It was brutal, efficient, necessary. And when it was over, we dragged their bodies into the brush and kept moving. Check their packs, Holloway ordered quietly. Maps, papers, anything useful. Leo found identification papers and a hand-drawn map showing patrol routes. Eddie discovered something better, a Wehrmacht radio schedule with frequencies and check-in times. This changes things, Eddie said, his Boston accent thick with excitement. I can monitor their communications. We'll know if they're looking for us. And if we're smart, I added, we can use their radio to feed them false information. Holloway studied the captured map, comparing it to ours. According to this, the ammunition depot is heavily guarded, but there's a weak point. He pointed to a section marked with minimal notation. Eastern perimeter, near the supply road. They're focused on defending against frontal assault, not infiltration. Because who'd be crazy enough to infiltrate? Tommy muttered. Us, Jimmy said simply. Dead men walking. We reached the observation point by noon, a wooded hillside overlooking the depot. What we saw made my blood run cold. The intelligence reports had been wrong. Way wrong. That's not 200 soldiers, Leo whispered, peering through borrowed German binoculars. That's 400. Maybe 5. The depot sprawled across a valley, massive warehouses, fuel dumps, artillery positions, machine gun nests, and a full company of SS troops in black uniforms. Panther tanks sat in defensive positions. Guard towers rose at every corner, searchlights ready for nightfall. We can't do this, Frank said quietly. He was right. 18 men against this? It wasn't suicide. It was murder. Holloway's jaw tightened. Command knew. They had to know. They sent us to die, Danny said, his young voice cracking. They just wanted us out of the way. Eddie suddenly grabbed Holloway's arm. Sarge, I'm picking up radio traffic. German command is, he listened intently to the captured radio, his face going pale. Jesus. They're reporting that Baker Company was wiped out at Corinthon. Killed to the last man. The words hung in the air like poison gas. We're officially dead, Jimmy said slowly. Command's already filed the reports. Those sons of bitches. Leo's hand shook with rage. They killed us on paper before we even got here. No matter what happens, they can claim we died in combat days ago. I felt something shift in that moment. Something fundamental. We'd been following orders, trusting the chain of command, believing we were serving something greater than ourselves. But we weren't soldiers anymore. We were ghosts. Expendable. Forgotten. So what do we do? Tommy asked. Go back. They'll execute us for desertion. Go forward. We die here. Holloway was silent for a long time, staring at that impossible depot. Then he smiled, that same dangerous smile from the night before. We do the mission, he said, but we do it our way. And when we're done, we don't go back to command. We fight our own war. What are you talking about? Frank asked. I'm talking about becoming something they can't control. Holloway's voice was steel. We're already dead, boys. That means we're free. No more suicide missions. No more following orders from bastards who see us as numbers on a casualty report. He looked at each of us. We hit this depot. We hurt the Germans bad, but then we disappear. We become a ghost unit, operating behind enemy lines, choosing our own targets, fighting the war our way. That's desertion, Eddie said. But his voice wasn't condemning. It was curious. Is it? I asked. We're officially Kia. Dead men can't desert. Command wanted to throw us away, Holloway continued. So let's make them regret it. Let's become the nightmare the Germans whisper about. The unit that shouldn't exist. The ghosts of Baker Company. Jimmy looked at his wife's photograph one more time, then tucked it away. Sarah always said I was too stubborn to die. He checked his rifle. I'm in. Hell with them, Leo said. They want us dead. Let's show them what dead men can do. One by one, we all agreed. Tommy, Eddie, Frank, Danny, all 18 of us. All right, Holloway said, pulling out the maps. Here's how we do this. We don't attack the depot head-on. That's what they expect. We make them think there's a full American assault coming from the west. Eddie used that German radio to broadcast false coordinates. Fake radio chatter about American armor divisions moving in. I can do that, Eddie confirmed. Meanwhile, we split into 3 teams. Team 1, Danny, Leo, Tommy, you circle north and hit their fuel depot. Light it up, create chaos. Team 2, Jimmy, Frank, and Rodriguez unit, you take the ammunition warehouse on the south side. Plant charges, maximum damage. Team 3, me, and the rest, we go for their command center and communications. When they're panicking, I added, seeing the strategy, when they think they're being overrun, we slip away into confusion. Exactly. Holloway's eyes gleamed. We hit them at dusk. By the time they realize it wasn't a full assault, we'll be ghosts again. We spent the afternoon preparing. Danny crafted improvised explosives from captured German grenades and ammunition. Eddie practiced his German, preparing to send false radio messages. Frank checked our medical supplies, what little we had. Jimmy said a prayer for all of us. As the sun began to set, painting the sky blood red, Holloway gathered us one final time. Whatever happens down there, he said, we look out for each other. Not for command. Not for some general safe in a chateau 50 miles away. For each other. Because we're all we've got. Brothers, Tommy said softly. Brothers, we echoed. At 1845 hours, Eddie began broadcasting on the German frequency, his voice urgent in perfect German tone. Americanish Panzer, Sector 7. Multiple Sherman tanks approaching from west. Request immediate reinforcement. Through binoculars, we watched the depot erupt into organized chaos. Officers shouting orders. Troops repositioning. Tanks turning their turrets westward. It's working, Leo breathed. Move out, Holloway ordered. We descended into the valley like vengeful spirits. The growing darkness was our ally. The confusion was our weapon. And for the first time since Omaha Beach, we weren't following someone else's plan. We were fighting back. The depot, June 12, 1944, 1900 hours. Hell came to St. Vith that night. Danny's team hit the fuel depot first. The explosion tore through the evening sky like a miniature sun, sending flames 200 feet into the air. Burning fuel rained down across the compound. German soldiers scattered like ants from a kicked nest, screaming, running, some already on fire. From our position near the command center, I watched the chaos unfold through the smoke. Eddie was beside me, still broadcasting false reports in German, Americanish infantry. Hundreds of them. We're being overrun. They're buying it, Holloway whispered. Look, they're repositioning everything toward the western perimeter. He was right. The SS troops were abandoning their posts, rushing toward the imaginary American assault. The Panther tanks rumbled forward, turrets swinging west. Officers barked orders into radios. Nobody was watching the eastern approach anymore. Nobody saw us coming. Team 2, go. Holloway hissed into his radio. 300 yards south, Jimmy's team moved like shadows through the smoke. They reached the ammunition warehouse undetected. Frank placed the charges, captured German explosives wired together with timer fuses. 30 seconds. That's all they had. They ran. The warehouse detonated with a sound that shook the earth. The shockwave knocked me flat. When I looked up, the entire southern section of the depot was gone. Just a crater and fire and body parts scattered across scorched ground. The secondary explosion started immediately. Artillery shells cooking off. Ammunition crates erupting like strings of firecrackers. Jesus Christ, Eddie breathed. They did it. Our turn, Holloway said. Move. We sprinted toward the command center, a reinforced bunker near the depot's heart. The German officers inside were screaming into radios, trying to coordinate a defense against an enemy that didn't exist. They never heard us coming through the smoke. Leo kicked in the door. Tommy was right behind him, Thompson's submachine gun blazing. The interior became a slaughterhouse. I won't describe it. Some things you don't forget, and some things you can't talk about even decades later. When the gunfire stopped, Holloway grabbed maps and documents from the command table. Intelligence goldmine, he said, stuffing papers into his pack. Troop movements, defensive positions, supply routes. This is worth more than the depot itself. Contact. Danny's voice crackled over the radio. German reinforcements coming from the north. At least 50 soldiers. All teams, extraction point Alpha. Holloway ordered. Move, move, move. We ran through the burning depot, past bodies and wreckage, through smoke so thick it burned our lungs. Behind us, German soldiers were starting to realize the truth. This wasn't a full assault. This was something worse. Something they couldn't understand. 18 men had destroyed their entire supply depot. Extraction Point Alpha was a small woods half a mile east. We'd cached supplies there before the mission. Extra ammunition, medical supplies, rations. As we ran, I counted heads. Danny check, Lee check, Tommy check, Eddie check, Frank. Man down. Jimmy's voice cut through the chaos. Frank's hit. I spun around. Frank Morrison was on the ground, blood spreading across his stomach. Jimmy and Tommy were dragging him, returning fire at pursuing Germans. Bullets kicked up dirt around them. Cover fire, Holloway roared. We opened up with everything we had. M1 Garand's cracking, Tommy's Thompson chattering, Leo's bar hammering. The Germans dove for cover. It gave Jimmy and Tommy the seconds they needed to reach us. How bad? Holloway asked as we reached the tree line. Frank's face was white, his hands pressed against his stomach. Bad, he gasped. Real bad, Sarge. We need to stop the bleeding, Jimmy said, but his medic training couldn't hide the truth in his eyes. Leave me, Frank whispered. Get out while you can. Shut up, Holloway snapped. Nobody gets left behind. Not anymore. Eddie was monitoring the German radio. They're organizing a search. At least 2 companies coming our way. We've got maybe 10 minutes. Danny, rig a perimeter with grenades, Holloway ordered. Tripwires, booby traps. Anything to slow them down. Tommy, help Jimmy stabilize Frank. Eddie, see if you can jam their radio frequencies. The rest of you, defensive positions. We worked with desperate efficiency. Danny and Leo turned the forest edge into a death trap. Eddie found the German command frequency and began broadcasting static and false coordinates. Jimmy packed Frank's wounds with sulfa powder and bandages, but we all knew it wasn't enough. Sarge, Frank said quietly. I'm not gonna make it. Like hell you're not, Holloway said. Listen to me. Frank grabbed Holloway's arm with surprising strength. You saved my life a dozen times over. Let me save yours now. He coughed, blood on his lips. There's a farmhouse 2 miles northeast. Old French couple hit me there once after a patrol went bad. They're resistance. They'll help you. We're taking you with us, I said. Frank smiled, a sad, knowing smile. I'll just slow you down. You know it. I know it. He looked at all of us. But I can buy you time. Give me a rifle, some grenades, and that German radio. I'll make them think you went south while you head north. Frank, Tommy started. It's my choice, Frank said firmly. For once, let me make my own choice. He looked at Holloway. You said we're ghosts now. That we fight our own war. Well, this is my fight. My way. The first explosion from Danny's tripwires echoed through the trees. German voices shouting. They were close. Holloway's face was stone, but his eyes betrayed him. You're a good man, Morrison. We're all good men, Frank said. That's why we deserve to live our own lives. Now get the hell out of here. We left him there, propped against a tree, M1 Garand across his lap, grenades lined up beside him, German radio crackling with enemy transmissions. The hardest thing we ever did was walking away. We were 50 yards gone when we heard it. Frank's voice, shouting in German on the radio. They're heading south. Full unit moving south toward the river. Then gunfire. Frank's rifle, single shots precise. Then the grenades. Then silence. Frank Morrison died buying us the minutes we needed to disappear into the French countryside. He died free, on his own terms, saving his brothers. There are worse ways to go. 3 weeks later, somewhere in France. The farmhouse Frank told us about was real. Pierre and Marie Dubois, an elderly couple who'd been hiding Allied soldiers and downed pilots since 1940. They took us in without question, hid us in their barn, brought us food and wine and news from the underground. The Germans are going crazy, Pierre said in broken English. They're calling you Die Geister, the ghosts. They think you're a full resistance cell, maybe 50 men. They've pulled troops from the front to search for you. Good, Holloway said. Let them waste their resources. We'd used the 3 weeks well. The document Holloway took from the command center revealed German defensive positions across the entire sector. We'd passed that intelligence to the French resistance, who related to Allied command. 3 German supply convoys had been ambushed based on our information. An artillery battery had been destroyed. A panzer company had driven into a prepared ambush. Baker Company, officially dead, was killing more Germans than we ever had while alive. What's the plan, Sarge? Danny asked. He'd grown up in those 3 weeks. We all had. Holloway spread a map across the barn floor. The Germans are retreating east. Allied armies are pushing forward. But there's a gap here, he pointed. Small German units getting cut off, trying to regroup. They're vulnerable, disorganized, and, Leo prompted, and we're going to make their lives hell. Holloway's smile was cold. We keep moving, keep hitting them where it hurts. Supply lines, communication posts, officers. We use their own tactics against them. Ambush, sabotage, psychological warfare. How long? Jimmy asked. Until the war ends, I said. Or until we're actually dead. Command thinks we're already dead, Eddie added. So we got nothing to lose and everything to gain. Tommy pulled out his rosary. My grandmother used to say that ghosts are souls with unfinished business. He looked at Frank's empty spot, the absence we all felt. Maybe that's what we are. Ghosts with unfinished business. Then let's finish it, Holloway said. Over the following months, the legend of Baker Company grew. The Germans called us Die Geister der Verdammten, the ghosts of the damned. Stories spread through Wehrmacht ranks. An American unit that couldn't be killed, that appeared from nowhere, struck without warning, and vanished like smoke. Some said we were demons. Others said we were dead men seeking revenge. They were closer than they knew. We lost Leo in August, killed by a German sniper during a raid on a supply depot. Tommy died in September, saving Danny from a grenade. Eddie took shrapnel in October, but survived, though his radio days were over. By the time Germany surrendered in May 1945, we were down to 9. 9 ghosts out of 18. When the war ended, we faced a choice. Turn ourselves in, face court-martial for desertion, or stay dead. We chose to stay dead. Baker Company was officially wiped out at Corinton, June 1944. That's what the records say. That's what the memorial says. 18 names carved in stone. 18 heroes who gave their lives. The truth is more complicated. We scattered after the war. New names, new lives, new countries sometimes. Holloway went to Canada. Danny disappeared into California. Jimmy returned to his wife Sarah. Had to convince her he wasn't a ghost, that he'd survived despite the death notice. Eddie opened a bar in New York. I'm still here, old and tired, but still here. We never spoke publicly about what happened. Never corrected the record. Let them have their heroes. Let the families have their honored dead. But every year on June 12th, those of us still living gather in a small bar in Montreal. We drink to the ghosts, Leo, Tommy, Frank, and all the others who didn't make it. We remember what we did, what they forced us to do, and how we fought back. They wanted to throw us away. Instead, we became something they never expected, free men who chose their own war, their own sacrifice, their own terms. They sent us on a suicide mission. But we refused to die the way they wanted. We died our own way, or we didn't die at all. And that made all the difference. 1989. I'm the last one now. Holloway died in 82. Danny in 85. Jimmy just last year. Sarah by his side to the end. The others scattered through the decades. Cancer, heart attacks, old age. All the things that kill old soldiers when bullets can't. My granddaughter asks me about the war sometimes. She sees the medals in the drawer, the ones I never wear. She asks why my name isn't on any memorial, why there's no official record of my service after 1944. I tell her I was listed as killed in action, that I'm a ghost. She thinks I'm joking. I let her think that. But sometimes, late at night, I take out the old photograph. 18 young men in a bombed-out farmhouse, June 1944. Holloway in the center, that steel jaw set with determination. Danny and Leo arguing about something. Tommy with his rosary. Eddie with his radio. Frank with his medic bag. Jimmy with Sarah's photograph. And me, barely visible in the back, already becoming a ghost. They forced us into a suicide mission. But we fought back. And in fighting back, we found something more valuable than any medal, any official honor, any parade. We found our freedom, even if it meant dying to get it.